As a film critic, it is my favorite time of the year. As we step into the new year of films of 2025, let's actually take a look back at the eclectic mix of films that captured my imagination and left an indelible mark on my cinematic heart. From epic sci-fi sagas to gripping dramas and innovative retellings of classic tales, this year has delivered an array of storytelling that left me fulfilled as a fan of films. We listen and we do not judge, as I'll be sharing with you all my personal top 10 favorite films of 2024, a list of films that I loved, I had a good time with at the theater, they're rewatchable, they're movies I cried with, laughed at, got scared while watching, in all the best way possible, of course, and these are a list of 10 films that I feel were unique experiences that showcase the power of cinema. So with that being said, I'm going to have a separate, I normally like to do like honorable mentions, but I'm going to make a separate video that I'm going to be talking about like the underrated films of the year that's going to go in my 11 through 20 list. So keep an eye out for that video, but let's just jump right into the fun and get into my top 10 list of the best films that I enjoyed the most that are my personal favorite of 2024. Kicking off my list with a film that brought me the most joy in the theaters while watching it, and it comes from one of my personal favorite film franchises of all time, and that is Bad Boys Ride or Die, or as I like to call it, Bad Boys for Life. The latest edition of the Bad Boys franchise brings back two of my favorite childhood leads from two of my favorite shows growing up. Of course, I'm talking about Morton and Fresh Prince, with the beloved duo of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence reprising their roles as Martin and Mike Lowrey, as they're back with this all-out action comedy that combines a great amount of humor and heart. Now, while personally Bad Boys 2 is still my favorite of the franchise, but the thing I loved about this fourth film was, to me, it may have, in my personal opinion, the best storyline, because in my eyes, the story really did a good job of focusing and embracing the themes of friendship and family, and it also had the most connectivity from one film to the next. And the reason I think that connectivity feels so strong for me is it had the least amount of time between sequels, right? From 1 to 2 took like 10 plus years, from 2 to 3 took 10 plus years, but from 3 to 4, we were back in the theater, back in the story, back in the adventure, less than 2 or 3 years. So that emotional depth carried over from one film to the next, and I felt that impact, and I love that it feels like more like a part 2 of part 3 more than like a separate film and being its own film, which it is its own film and its own story, but it felt like a continuation of part 3, which I really enjoyed, as this installment offered a perfect mix and a perfect balance of laughing out loud moments. And I will never forget Reggie McDonald's John Wick scene, which just added so much fun and just a joyous celebration of a film that I loved and a film that I have nostalgia for. And I know that they are talking about making a part 5, and it's going to be the last one. We'll see. If it makes enough money, we'll probably get 6 more of these things, which I'm not complaining about. But hey, I love me some Bad Boys. And then again, this was the most fun I had in the theaters all year, and that's why Bad Boys Ride or Die is my number 10 on my list. All right, coming in next is one of my favorite horror films that plays in a psychological subgenre, and that's Heretic. This film is a gripping exploration of reason, faith, and dogma, as Heretic follows two young missionaries who are forced to prove their faith when they knock on the wrong door and thrown into a diabolical game of cat and mouse. To me, this film really pushes the boundaries of this type of genre, dive into like faith-based type of storytelling, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I like the way this film handled it, and it examines the struggle between like personal belief and personal conviction. The film just had so much great things going for it, but one of the things I love was the exceptional performances by Sophie Thatcher. Chloe East was fantastic, but also Hugh Grant was exceptional. I love the profound script that it had. The film really challenges you as a viewer to really reflect on your own beliefs and the complexities of faith. Again, to me, it's truly an exceptional film, well written, such a great thriller, and it has an ending that I actually did a video on, like explaining my interpretation of ending, but the ending was very thought-provoking. It's something that left me pondering, and Heretic is just an exceptional film, and that's why it's my number 9 on my top 10 list of this year. Now let's stick in the world of another A24 film, and that is one that left me in complete disbelief after watching it for the first time in IMAX, and that's Alex Garland's Civil War. Man, what a a roller coaster of a movie. And I'll be honest with you all, I wasn't initially that excited. Like, I love Alex Garland, I love A24, but I don't really like politically driven films, especially in the climate that we live in. Like, I want to separate myself from that when I go to a theater. But to my surprise, this movie instead was a apolitical anti-war film, and easily one of the most tense, gritty, and brutal movies I've seen in quite a while. And it shared some similarities of some of my favorite films, like Apocalypse Now meets Sicario. The combination of Alex Garland's impeccable direction and the beautiful cinematography really create this immersive experience that is both heart-pounding and haunting while it's being beautifully crafted all at once. I thought the performances by the ensemble cast was perfect. I love how Kaylee Spain, who's just a movie star right now, she's so great. Her and Kirsten Dunst just carry the emotional weight in this very heavy film. The filmmaking is outstanding, and let me tell y'all something, I still cannot shake that scene, and it's the most disturbing scene of the year for me, and y'all know what scene I'm talking about.
Well, you're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you?
So yeah, I really enjoyed Civil War. I'm really excited to see Alex Garland's next war movie, which is Warfare, which looks really good. So Civil War, my number 8, fantastic film. Next, we have a film that I don't normally gravitate towards, but man, what an unexpected experience from beginning to the end. I'm talking about the thriller Conclave. For a movie that's following cardinals going from room to room, delegating about who's going to be the next pope, this was easily one of the most thrilling films of the year, and that goes to number 1, a great script, great performances, but also really great, sharp direction by the phenomenal director Edward Berger. This political thriller takes us behind the doors of the Vatican as the cardinals pick their new pope, and the tensions were so high, the secrets were completely shocking, which led to a grippy narrative filled with intrigue and suspense. This is such a fascinating film that explores themes of power, faith, and morality, and I cannot stress enough how great and how riveting it is, but also, I'm not going to spoil it here because if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But there is a shocking ending that I didn't anticipate happening, and it just really plays into just how the film comes together because it is just so damn riveting. Like the other films I mentioned so far, incredible performances across the board, led by Ralph Fiennes, who gives an Oscar-worthy performance, and I definitely see him getting a nomination for Best Male Actor. I see this film getting a nomination for Best Director, but also a nomination for Best Picture. What a great, riveting thriller that I can't recommend enough, and that's why Conclave is coming in at my number 7 on my list. Next on my list comes a film that I think I love more than others, and that's okay, because that's what makes films unique, is just we can all interpret things differently and enjoy things more than others. But speaking of unique, let's talk about the prequel, Furiosa. Now, Fury Road to me is one of my favorite films of all time, and I thought that Furiosa was a perfect companion that leads right into Fury Road. To me, this prequel was a high-octane action film from beginning to the end, and it showed that George Miller continues to be a mad genius by making this an incredibly dark and twisted tale of Furiosa's origins that are filled with revenge and stem from hate and turn her into a person driven by vengeance. I've seen this film a couple times at this point, and what I love about it is the revenge story. Like, it reminds me of like classic Korean cinema where it takes its time and dive into the minutia, into the details and the complexities of the revenge story from Furiosa, trying to take out Chris Hemsworth, who, by the way, Anya Taylor-Joy, perfect in the role, but also Chris Hemsworth, I love you as Thor. I love when he does, his leading man thing, but him as a villain is fantastic. Whether it's in this film or Bad Times at the El Royale, he was great. The stunt work is fantastic. It is jaw-dropping action sequences. The cinematography is great. I love the score. I love being in the wasteland. And it really does break my heart that unfortunately this film didn't do well in the box office. So we may not see another continuation, which just is so sad. But if this is the last time that we get to see George Miller in the wasteland, I think it's one of my favorite prequels of all time, and I just had such a fun time with this film. And shout out to Furiosa coming in on my list.
It's one of the great forces of nature. That wasn't hope, that was instinct.
Before we get into my top 5, I want to thank you all for making it to this point of this video. I'm having a good time just reminiscing about some of my favorite films. But if you made it to this point in the video, I really thank you. If you're having a good time, if you're enjoying my list so far, again, we listen and we don't judge. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Consider sharing this video, but also continue to share your list. What's your top 10 favorite films of the year? And also consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel. Let's get into my top 5. Coming in at number 5 is a film that wasn't really on my radar at the beginning of the year, but man, I'm glad I got to experience this film that was on Netflix, but I saw it in theaters. I'm talking about The Piano Lesson. Making his directorial debut, Malcolm Washington takes the adaptation of August Wilson's award-winning play and delivers a masterclass in storytelling. With the help of some incredible performances, this film is set in the 1930s, and it's a film that examines the complexities of family heritage and the pursuit of dreams through the lens of a family struggle over a valuable piano. So I mentioned a little bit about the performances, right? And for you all that don't know, a lot of the actors in this film actually portrayed their characters in the play, and I haven't seen the play yet. I plan on watching it one of these days, and especially after watching this film. But the performances are so great. The ensemble cast, Ray Fisher, Sam Jackson, everyone in this film, Corey Hawkins, great performances. But my goodness, John David Washington, and number one, I love The Family Affair. We got Malcolm directing this. We got Denzel producing this. We got his son, John, co-leading this film. And I believe their sister might have had her hand in this film. But either way, I love the Washington family. But I love the performances by John. He's so great. He's so nuanced. I love how he's building his career so far and the projects he chooses to pick. But my goodness, y'all, I don't know if I'm more fond or more like excited for Daniela Detweiler's career, because every time I see her, she makes me cry, like in a good way. Her performance in Teal and in this film is just groundbreaking. Listen, she better not get a snub this year. Like, she needs to get a nomination because she's so damn good in this film, as is, like I said, the entire cast. It's such a moving movie. It's so profound. There's so much nuance going on. And as the credits roll, I was left kind of reflecting on my own family legacy, which to me marks the true richness of great storytelling. Like, if you guys haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. I got to see it in theaters, which was just a great experience in itself. But watch The Piano Lesson. It is a phenomenal film, and that's why it's coming in at number 5. From one movie film to another, but one that has completely been under the radar, unfortunately, but I was lucky enough to see this in theaters, and I was beyond happy to discuss it and spread the word about this incredible film. I'm talking about Sing Sing. Now, for those that are hearing about this film for the first time, this film follows Coleman Domingo's character, who is in prison for a crime he didn't commit, as he finds purpose by acting in a theater group alongside other incarcerated men, and it's just a story about redemption and finding yourself and being rehabilitated through the arts and not judging a book by its cover. This is truly a beautiful film, and again, it's about expressing yourself through the arts, but also it's about humanity, it's about freedom, and it's about self-love and compassion. There's just this sense of authenticity that radiates throughout the entire film, and every scene just felt so incredibly alive and powerful. I truly just was so emotionally invested in the story, and this is one of my favorite ensemble casts of the year. Like, all the characters, no matter their screen time, was just left an impression on me. I talked about Coleman Domingo. Like, he has just become one of my favorite actors working, and such a fascinating story of how he came about to fame, and deservingly so. He's such a great actor, and he seems like a great person. I really enjoyed Rustin last year, and he got a nomination for that, and I really do hope he gets a nomination for Sing Sing, because I personally think I enjoyed Rustin, but I love Sing Sing, and I think this is a more nuanced performance in my opinion. But I love this cast, but I want to point the light on a particular actor who, this is my first time watching him. I'm talking about Clarence Macklin, who is a co-lead in this film. He completely commands the screen and goes toe-to-toe with Coleman Domingo, and I love their dynamic together. It was just sensational. This movie truly captures the importance of second chances through the story of rehabilitation, through the arts, and truly highlights the importance of community as well. I really do hope people find this film. I love A24, but the marketing and the press of this film has been horrendous. Like, I hope once we get closer to Oscar season that they find a way to kind of put it back in theaters and spread the word. Like, I'm spreading the word now. So if you can, try to see Sing Sing. It should be available streaming somewhere, and if it is, I highly recommend you all check it out because it's one of the most beautiful films of the year. Now let's switch gears and talk about one of the most gothic, romantic, and tragic films of the year, and that's Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. What Robert Eggers does in this film is he creates this very bold and very unique retelling of the classic 1922 horror film of Nosferatu, and he finds a way to breathe new life into the story of Count Orlok. This version of Nosferatu is not just a remake, it's a reinvention of the story. It's a film that uses the original Gothic framework to explore these new themes and depths of these characters as it explores romance and tragedy. And I am just such a fan of the mood that Robert creates in this film, the look of the film, the score of the movie, and just these beautiful performances across the board from Willem Dafoe to Nicholas Hoult to Emma Corrin. Bill Skarsgård, unrecognizable as Count Orlok, and Lily Rose Depp. I've been talking about performances throughout this entire time. I think she brings the best performance of the year for me personally, not just in horror, but just in general. Like, I love her performance. I love this movie. It has a spell on me. I just did like a full analysis of the film that's on the channel now. So if you guys want to check that out to hear more of my thoughts about all these films are on my channel for review purposes. But I just made a video about Nosferatu, diving a little bit deep into it. So check that out. Such a big fan. Robert Eggers, 4 for 4. I can't wait to see what he does next. But Nosferatu is coming in at my number 3, which means we're down to the final 2. And next on my list is the longest film that I've seen in the year. And I got to see it at a film festival. And it was one of 3 of 35mm prints in the Midwest. And it's one of the best movie going experiences I've had of the year. And that is coming in at number 2 is The Brutalist. Coming in at a staggering 3.5 hours long and including a 15-minute intermission, this is a film that follows a visionary architect who arrives in America to rebuild his life, his career, and his marriage. The Brutalist to me stands as a staggering achievement in cinema. Like, this movie is just, it feels classic. As I was watching it, I felt like I was transported to like another time. Like, it's all about art. It's all about finding yourself. It's all about the American dream, but also the American nightmare. It's so much going on with this beautiful film. I love that it has like remnants of classics like The Godfather, meets a little bit of like There Will Be Blood. It had themes of Oppenheimer. It had themes of Tar. Like, there's so much that it reminded me of, but it's its own film. It has its own narrative. It has its own thing that it's trying to do. Is so moving. It's just such a monumental film, in my opinion. Like, Brady Corbin did such a great job of bringing this film together. Again, 3.5 hours. It's a long movie, but I was never bored. I was always connected to the story, and that's because of these, number one, great direction, great story, but also phenomenal performances. We have supporting characters, Guy Pearce, you have Felicity Jones, but Adrian Brody as Laszlo, the main character who's the architect in this film, what a performance, y'all. Like, I see so many awards being thrown at this movie, and rightfully so. Best Picture, Best Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, Best Soundtrack and Score. And I see Adrian Brody getting his nomination as well as Best Lead Actor. And I'm going to say it now, he's going to win because he brings the best performance from a male lead actor. Incredible film. I have the movie, like they send screeners every year, and I have the physical copy of the movie. I've seen it twice at this point, 6.5, almost 7 hours worth of film and storytelling, but it is a film that, like I said, is an achievement in cinema, and it is my number 2 favorite film of the year. But there can only be one, and coming in my top spot of my number 1 film of 2024 is a film that completely captures everything I love about movies, everything I love about science fiction, and everything I love about epic storytelling, and that's the sequel to the Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's monumental novel Dune. We're talking about Dune Part 2. A film that takes us deeper into the politics, into the culture of the Fremen, and explores the ways of Arrakis. The film is filled with stunning visuals with the great direction of my favorite director, Denis Villeneuve. Also, the combination of the cinematography by Greg Fraser, paired with the incredible GOAT himself with the Hans Zimmer out-of-body experience score, which just creates this immersive experience that transports you to the developed and richness of these incredible universes that we get within Dune. all the performances, and I mean all of them, left this lasting impression on me, whether it's Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, we have Zendaya getting more to do as Shani, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, we have the Harkonnens being just despicable and terrible individuals, we have Austin Butler. I mean, the cast is phenomenal. They all know what they're doing. We got newcomers, Christopher Walken and Florence Pugh, who's great in this film. Like, everyone is operating on the absolute highest level possible to bring this excellent film to the theaters. I can't stress enough the grandioso scope and scale. This film has one of the best third acts I've seen in a long time, all while building on these outstanding characters and development. This, to me, is genuinely just classic masterpiece storytelling. It's one of my favorite science fiction films in a long time, and I just had a blast watching Dune Part 2. Like, if you can't tell, I'm a big fan of Dune. I love the first one. I think the second one's even better. I'm excited for Dune Messiah. I covered Dune Prophecy on my channel. Like, I am just so steeped in the lore and the mythology of Dune, and Dune Part 2 is just... it's the only film of the entire year that I gave a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. It's a perfect movie in my eyes. I know nothing's really perfect, but to me, this is science fiction. This is epic storytelling. This is a masterpiece, and that's why Dune Part 2 is my #1 film of 2024.
I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, Duke of Arrakis!
So in conclusion, the films I just mentioned on my top 10 personal list of 2024 not only have been entertaining, but also provoke thought and inspired emotion. Each of these 10 films to me had unique storytelling, some great direction, great cinematography, great performances, and were just memorable films, and I loved them, man. Again, this is my personal list. I thought that this was a really solid year for movies in general, right? I thought that we had some really solid blockbusters. I thought we had some amazing independent films and everything in between. So a really good year, which I hope is just momentum to carry us out of the slump that we have from obviously the strikes and COVID, and getting back to just being happy to be in the theaters with strangers that you never met, and you can all experience this story on the big screen. So there you have it, y'all. My top 10 movies of 2024. I have a list of other movies I'm going to be sharing in the next couple days. Again, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 like most underrated films of the year, top 10 favorite shows of the year. We're going to be talking about 2025 soon. So top 10 most anticipated movies, top 10 most anticipated shows, and I'll be doing like other like smaller lists like favorite horror films and things of that nature. So it's a good time to talk about movies, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. I love movies. I love talking movies with you all, and I hope you all had a good time. If you did, hit the thumbs up. Consider sharing this video. Share your list. Again, we listen and we don't judge. Let me see your list in the comments below. And listen, I'm trying to take the next year and just go into the next level. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. So if you all want to help me get to that goal, hit the subscribe button, stick around, check out the content. I hope you enjoy it. With that being said, I'm going to see you pretty soon. Got a lot of videos coming out soon. So hit that bell notification. You all stay safe. You all are awesome. And I'll see you on the next video.